Okay, well, welcome to Australia and welcome to Countdown. And first of all, there's a confession to make with someone like yourself, because over in Australia, punk rock really hasn't hit as yet. But in the week we've been here in England, there's been, with a lot of the world's top acts, a lot of talk about the new wave music or the punk rock craze that has hit. Yourself, you're one of the new bands. Can you explain to the audience exactly what is your style of music for a start, and how do you see music going in England and perhaps for the world?
I don't know really, we just play rock and roll.
Yeah.
I just think today's music's just 70s rock and roll.
Yeah.
It just says what 70s is about, what it's like being young today, you know?
Yeah.
Just expressing our attitude.
Now, have you ever sort of followed, I mean, like, let's establish, first of all, you're from Generation X, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that perhaps recording companies that perhaps may be signing up a lot of the acts are just trying to cash in on a craze that may be just going at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, that always happens. I mean, there's loads of bands cashing in on it. I mean, most people sling a tie around their neck, reckon it's punk rock.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think there's loads of groups like that. I mean, I think there's only about a couple of, really true groups, you know.
Yeah.
The rest is a load of shit.
Right now, with yourselves, I mean, you obviously sort of, I mean, how long have you been going as a band?
About a year.
Yeah. And someone came along and wanted to sign you up. For what reason?
Well, really, we waited to be signed up, if you know what I mean. Right, all these other groups jumped in, but we waited because we knew when we wanted to record, how we wanted to record, and with who in the group we wanted to record with.
Yeah.
And then the right company came along asking us would we sign with them. And we said, well, if you give us enough money. And when they gave us $3 million, we said, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they came to us. And that was the whole great thing about punk rock, right? It isn't the business, isn't us going to them crawling on our hands and knees. It's Terry Ellis crawling on his hands and knees to me.
Right.
And I say, thanks a lot, Terry, and take the money.
Right. Now, I mean, he has some, well, I mean, we'll talk about Chrysalis as far as the company is concerned, and he has some, and that label has some pretty...
Duff acts, yeah, I know what you mean.
Pretty
I mean, we're
top
the only
acts
good
as
act
well.
on it. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know what top means. They're duff, if you ask me.
Well, top in the sense that they have achieved to reach the top of the charts. They have achieved to sell out concerts and
Yeah, but I don't think that's what rock and roll's about. I thought rock and roll was just about great music, so, I think they're duff. Because I haven't really heard any great music from Chrysalis.
Right.
I think we're going to be the first great thing they've had.
Well, have you ever sort of followed any other form of music before?
All my life I've been into rock and roll music, which is simple, which is a simple, vibrant noise, right? Which was saying things for young people very directly, right? Because the people in the groups were just young, ordinary people. They weren't like big rock stars who could only sing about the fact that someone's ripped off all their royalties. And that's what I like about punk rock. It's just back to young people singing about their own situation. And I'm young, right? And I want to hear things which speak to me, which maybe they don't give a solution, but they just verify the fact that I'm here, you know what I mean? They say the things, the problems I've got, and they just try to make you feel good, So rock and roll to me is about that. It's just noise which makes you feel great and says things simply. And I feel all those big groups, especially like some of the ones that are on our label, and all the other labels, right? A lot of them have lost that for me. So I'm trying to get that feeling back in rock and roll.
Now, I don't know whether you like the Sex Pistols or not, right? But suddenly the Sex Pistols, over the last 6 months, and when we went through all the bullshit with, first of all EMI, then A&M, forking out all the money, and they finally found Virgin. And that made the papers, and then they were able to swear on television. Well, I mean, quite frankly, anyone can swear on television, and probably if you mic a cricket match or any footy match during the week, you'd find that, even the most sacred names like Tony Gregg and Ian Chappell swear on television. So there's really nothing new on that either. But they suddenly became a media commodity within themselves, And when you become a media commodity, I mean, you're immediately wanted. Now, it's the same like the Rod Stewarts or the Rolling Stones, and they've all had to go through it. The Sex Pistols now have gone to #1 in 1 week with their album, because it's taken literally 8 months for it to come out. What would happen if Generation X releases a record that went to #1, bang like that, here in America and in Australia, and everyone wanted to see you, and suddenly there's a great demand going.
Well, I mean, I think that'd be fantastic, mainly because there's rock and roll, our rock and roll, the rock and roll I believe in. You know, I don't know anything about media manipulation, because to me, the Sex Pistols and other groups just make a great noise, a noise which means something to young people, right? I'd rather have them than Rod Stewart and those sort of people, because their music is important to me. I don't really know about all the media manipulation. I don't really understand all that stuff. But for me, they're just, you know, for me, our music is the music for young people today. And if it's honest and truthful, right, I think that's the music that people should be seeing. So if everybody in the world wanted to see us, I'd really love that. And then, I don't know, we'd have to cope with that situation when it arose, right? If millions of people wanted to see us, I don't know what we'd do, right? It hasn't occurred to me, it hasn't happened. We just have to cope with it when it happened.
Yeah, but for instance, like, now you take the label you record for, right? Now, to enter into a recording studio, it costs X amount of money.
Yeah, a lot
Unless,
of money.
of course, you pay for it yourself.
I don't know who pays for anything. I never see anything. I'll get 20 quid a week. I don't see nothing out of it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to... Yeah, well, that's cool.
I have to pinch things to make money.
Right, well, probably so do they. They have to probably pinch
probably.
some studio time, you know, to put a gamble in of any group. Because once you release a record, it does cost money. I mean, it's all very fine. Anyone looking at a record, any group looking at a record and say, well, there's our record. But basically, there's money involved in putting out that record.
Yeah.
Right.
Money well spent. Money well spent.
Well, it does. Well, I mean, it's involving rock and roll, right?
Yeah, right.
Now,
So I mean, money well spent.
Well, is it money?
And they
well
got
spent?
tons of money anyway. I reckon they should spend fucking millions more on us than everybody else. I mean, all those cunts at the top, they got so much money, right? They just roll in it. I'd rather it spent on us, even if it cost a bomb. I mean, it's great. They've given us so much money already. It's so exciting.
But I mean, where does rock and roll go as far as this is concerned? I mean, it could all fall in a heap tomorrow. I mean, there was something like, as we discussed earlier on in the interview, suddenly overnight, there's something like 60, 70, 100, 120 potential punk rock bands. Every company now has, well, this is our punk rock band.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's kind of horrible. I mean, I just think most of those companies made a mistake. I mean, I know they want to make a lot of money out of it, right? That's the only thing they're in it for. That's the only thing they're in. The only thing they like rock and roll for is because it's going to make a lot of money for them. I mean, maybe like, I know Chrysalis started out as a very small company. And originally the guys, I suppose, loved it because they just loved the music. But I know now, right, it's a big business machine.
Okay, now...
But for me, wait a minute. For me, it doesn't matter, right? Because I'm not part of the business machine, right? The business machine came to us, right?
Right.
They said, we'll give you all this money so you can continue making the noise you want to make, right?
Okay.
So that's what it means to me. I don't really know. I mean, honestly, if they make a load of bread and they put it into, like, war machines or something like that, right, I'm going to feel terrible. But I didn't do it for those reasons originally, you know.
Well, maybe neither did Rod Stewart. Yet Rod Stewart, say, like last week at Madison Square Gardens, had a very young audience really getting off on his music. Now, a New York audience have been through all the punk rock craze, I mean, 10 years ago, and it's been happening ever since, you know? Now, are they wrong going to that and enjoying that music?
Well, I don't think they're wrong, right? But I think it's really what these people use the money for. I mean, Rod Stewart just uses it to sort of build up some huge art collection, you know, I mean...
But why not? I mean...
Yeah, but I don't... To me, that's... It's so totally antisocial for a start, and it's so opposite what rock and roll is about, you know, because all you're trying to do is sort of like play music.
Can I interrupt there?
Yeah.
Rock and roll is a form of entertainment, right? I mean, if you're going to use the word loosely, rock and roll is a form of entertainment, right? I mean, going right back to the Little Richards, Chuck Berry, you name it, like, it was just a form of musical entertainment, right? And so were the entertainers.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, do you like that leather jacket that you're wearing?
As long as it's entertaining people, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
No,
Really,
but
I don't know
is
whether
it
rock and roll's
entertaining you?
entertainment or not, really. All I know is I just like it, right? I just do it because I like it. I like go to the things because I like what people say. I see it more as just a form of communication, people just giving ideas over. Right, so Rod Stewart's ideas seem to me to like incorporate collecting huge art galleries in his own room for his own private It's so aristocratic, so old-fashioned. It's so fucking, you know, like what all the royalty and everybody with money's always done, denied everybody else something. And I thought rock and roll and music and singing was about giving people things, giving people feelings and emotions. And I think if you do that on one side of your life, right, really, like, it should follow in other things. You should want to, like, give out, also get back too, you know. But, like, it seems to me like all these, a lot of those sort of people like that, they seem to start collect things, you know, like collect houses. And
Now you did say at one stage
silly to me.
that you and your group were waiting for the right deal to come along for the right recording, right? There should be no right deal in that sort of thinking. I mean, I would, if that...
No, see, look, the right deal, what we meant by that was, right, that in the contract, it says we get control of what product we want to put out, what songs we want to put out, singles, how the album's going to be, what the cover looks like, how much, no. All we use the money we get, right? We wanted to get quite a lot of money so we could use it to make a great album, so we could spend as much time as possible doing the songs, getting out on the road and playing to people.
Right.
That's the only reason we wanted money, you know, and enough to live on, right? You know, so we could keep the group going as a group, so we can make the group work, so we can make things happen for people. That's why we wanted the money.
No, I know this is purely hypothetical.
That's why we wanted the right deal. It ain't to do with, like, oh, you know, it says in the contract you get a car after 6 months, or you get a car with the job.
Right.
Wasn't that at all, right? Because I still travel on the bus. I came here on the tube.
Yeah. But what if suddenly you did take off and you were number one in America, you were number one in England, and all Europe and all the Asian countries? What would you do with the money then?
I'll spend it on drugs.
Yeah?
Yeah. Spend it on drugs, on, like, having a good time, taking people out. You know, like, just having great fun. And I wouldn't buy, like, an art gallery with it. I can go down... I'd rather...
Would you buy a house?
I don't know, really. I never thought about it. Don't think so. I think, yeah, maybe I'll buy a car. I don't know. I like to have a really battered up Rolls Royce, like really smash it up and have it all smashed and broken or something.
Now,
no, I mean, I don't know what I'd use the money for, but I'd try and use it for rock and roll, you know what I mean? I'd try and, like, you know, I wouldn't go and buy a huge, great golf course or something just because I felt like playing golf. I mean, I don't know what I'd do with it. I mean, really, the thing is, I've never had much money, right?
Yeah.
And if I got a lot of it, I wouldn't know what to do with it. But I think we've had 20 years of rock and roll, right? We've had 20 years of people making mistakes, business-wise, management-wise, and the groups making mistakes. And I feel, right, by this time, I know what I should do with the money.
Do you think that the Eagles have made a mistake?
I don't know. I think the Eagles made the mistake being the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, I don't like the Eagles, so I don't know what they're like as people, but the music, right? I don't like it.
Millions do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of groups.
And it entertains millions.
I sort of felt, yeah, it does. But I mean, I thought rock and roll was a little bit more than just entertaining people. I thought it's being really basically honest about what you feel about things, what you're doing. I don't know if that's the truth or not, but to me, that's what rock and roll was about. When John Lennon sings "All I Want Is the Truth" or "Woman is the Nigger of the World," right? It's songs like that speak to me.
So you have admired groups in your time?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think that's one thing I don't like about what's happening. People seem to deny sort of influences or deny things which made them feel great. Punk rock lacks a lot of emotion. I really feel people should expose themselves more in it because there is still emotion today. It's a lie if there isn't, you know. Even if maybe you don't love other people like that sort of like stupid, daft, soppy love, but maybe if you like still feel things about things, like I feel things about music. That's what I'm doing right now.
Next, let's get on to music just on that score. Say you have a guitarist who may spend 10 years perfecting his craft on that instrument, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's many have done that, right? And he may be resentful purely on the pure rock and roll sense to some other little guy that may have just come up, can just twang a guitar, but happens to sort of, you know, I mean, you can include probably many of the punk rock bands. You can include perhaps the Bay City Rollers. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, but I sort of think that's got nothing to do with. I mean, that's his problem, right?
Yeah.
Because he's got some big hang-up about the fact you should be technically brilliant to get to people. I really don't think that. I just thought it doesn't matter how you play the guitar or what process you go through. You only do it technically for yourself anyway. You do it for how you see how music or rock and roll or anything should be played. So if he thinks he's got to spend 10 years to get it right before he plays to people, that's really up to him. You see, I feel, you know, he should feel justified in himself that if people don't like it, he still believes what he's doing is the correct thing.
Right.
So he can, you know, I think what we're doing is the right thing because we're showing we just want to play, want to make a noise, right? We're going to take the 10 years or something just to do it publicly.
Point taken. But then, do you follow football or soccer?
Not really, no, I don't
No?
like it. I
Tennis?
used to like it when they scored goals, but they don't.
Tennis?
Cricket? Not really. Yeah, not really. No, I don't like sport. It's horrible. I hated it at school. I always used to get out of it. I used to
Yeah.
like skive off when it was school.
Well, I mean, can you admire a soccer player that you know that
Yeah, obviously like technique and skill, but I think,
because he has to learn his technique.
but in our group, right, we've got 4 people who are working together to build a technique in which we don't need to play for 50 years to make it sound great. We're working on what we've got, on the bare essentials of what we got, which is, I think, what music should be about. You
Okay.
just work with what you got, right? And if we're big or if we're small, it's neither here nor there. It's just the fact that we're trying to play together
Okay.
and make a noise, right?
Now, if
So I don't know about
if
technique. Sorry.
if as a group, if say suddenly the bubble exploded, right, and people and the masses were turning to something else.
Spend, spend, spend.
No, but I mean, but if they turned to something else, even if they're just turning up to any of the gigs and they wanted to see something else, they may want to go and see a group that can technically play. Would you as a group try to further your technical ability as far as playing is concerned?
Well, I
Or
mean,
would you
all the
just give it
time, you
up?
know, just when you pick up a guitar, like you're trying to get better at it, because you want to make the music better, or you want to just try and find things on it. You know, when I play the guitar, because I do play one, I just like try to find things on it, so I'll probably end up getting better. And in a way, you work at it subconsciously, don't you? I don't sit there playing scales all day,
No.
because that's not my idea of how you make music. So, obviously, as a group, we're trying to get better, make it sound better, more interesting.
We've been talking about rock and roll, and we've been talking about manipulation. We've been talking about companies, bad or worse, or for whatever they were.
Yeah.
Today you've got a group, and you come under a classification, and one should, I don't think, ever classify music anyhow, you know.
Oh, well, I see, yeah.
Right, I mean, put it under, you know, whether it be punk rock or whatever it is. I mean, it should go under, your name's Generation X, so it should go under Generation X. That is their music, and that's that, you know. The same as like the Sex Pistols or the Eagles, you name it, right?
Yeah, I
It should
feel
be
like
their type of
classification is
music.
other people's problems,
Right,
it's not mine.
exactly. With your group, do you listen to many albums?
Yeah, of course.
And be really honest, I mean, like, are there any artists that have been around, that are established, that you do still like?
Well, not really, actually. I like what they have done in the past, right?
Right.
I don't find a lot of the older people, older rock and roll people, very stimulating anymore. You know, I like Gene Vincent, right? Like Eddie Cochran when they did it, or when it was great. You know, I like sort of the little piece of 3 minutes which is like encapsulated on records. I like things like that, but. You know, I like a lot of the Beatles stuff. I love, like I already said, I like "Woman Is the Nigger of the World." I think that's great. That John Lennon wrote 70s music before we got here today. He wrote punk rock. You know, his early songs, like "Cold Turkey," is the most simplest thing you've ever heard if you listen. So I have got people I like, but the thing is, they let me down. They let me down because they either stopped making great rock and roll, or the songs they started to write started to have no bearing on my life, so they
Yeah.
became irrelevant for me.
Right.
And like today, I don't have nobody like that.
Okay, now, we've gone through, and I found this the most probably interesting interview I've done for a while, and I still don't know your name.
Billy, my name is.
Billy, and I just know of the group. Can you tell us a bit about your own product now, as far as what you've put down on record?
Well, I mean, the only single we made at the minute is Your Generation, right? And I was just talking about what rock music I like in the past, really. And Your Generation, it's not, it's really about how, for like the last 6 years, right, there hasn't been anything which we felt had the type of emotion and rawness, right, which makes rock and roll mean something for people for years and years, which really speaks to them. So we feel like we've got all these great influences from the 60s, like I think the Beatles, the Who, the Kinks, and then there's a lot of American people, like Stooges and stuff, all that sort of people.
Yeah.
Even like the old rock and roll, like Gene Vincent, right? We've got all those influences that show you what's right about rock and roll, right? And now we want to go on, take the next step, and push rock and roll another step further, right?
Right.
still encapsulate all that's gone before, but move on. And that's what your generation's about. It's not about hating all the old people just because they've gone off with a lot of money. I mean, like, that's true, but it's more important that rock and roll music's great again for me. I want to walk down the street, and every discotheque you go by or every shop, it's rock and roll pouring out, So that's what it's about. It's just about wanting to make a next step, right? And just saying what's happened in the past 6 years and wanting to move on, And whatever it takes. It might take violence, It might take hatred. It might take love again. I don't know. But we're going to try and find out, try and push on,
And what about your new single?
Well, the new one's called Wild Youth, right? And I just think it's just about Wild Youth.
Right.
And it's really, I feel it's just about talking about me personally, right? But it's it's trying to find the identity of today, you know what I mean? What being alive in the 70s is about, How you got the same pressures from authority and stuff, but we're fighting it so we can, be ourselves, do what we want, do what we think. Really that's about, People always tell you can't do what you want, you've got to do what everybody else wants you to do. It's just about that. 70s has had no real identity, right? It's always been trading on what's happened in the past.
Right.
And even punk rock started out like that, trading on the music, a little bit of the past, But the thing is, like I was saying about your generation, we've absorbed those influences, and now we're trying to find the music of today. And so Wild Youth, I feel, is like we can now approach the 70s with a new feeling, because people today have revitalised what was great about old things, but put the spirit of today in it. And Wild Youth's just about that. It's about what we feel today about being young, what things turn us on, and there's still a big fight going on, but it's still great. You can make things great today if you want them to be great.
Okay, Billy. Thanks for talking to us.
That's right.
It's actually been really good to talk to you. Thanks, man.